So I'm gonna start. It's started recording.
Hi guys, thank you for coming to my speech. This is my mom, Dorian, and Koa the cameraman. We also have Brighton the toddler. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about mirror neurons. I wanted to share with you just some facts about it, some background stuff, and what's going on lately with it. So we're going to talk about what is a mirror neuron, how does it function, what effect do mirror neurons have on our behavior, and how do mirror neurons affect our social lives. So the first direct recording of a mirror neuron was found by Dr. Itzhak Fried at UCLA in 2010, and that was like the first real concrete proof in humans. But before that, mirror neurons were discovered almost by accident in rhesus macaque monkeys, when scientists realized that the macaque would respond the same way neurologically if it was doing an action or if it was seeing another macaque or a researcher do the action. To us, to scientists, a neuron looks like this. That is a nerve cell. But to us, a mirror neuron may best be seen as this. If you'll notice, the baby and the mom are smiling at each other, which is a common thing for babies to imitate the facial expressions of others. It was originally thought that mirror neurons existed in only a couple of parts of the brain, and that would be in the frontal lobe of the brain and on either side in the parietal lobe of the brain. But during research on epileptic patients with an intracranial depth electrode implant, researchers discovered that mirror neurons are found in greater numbers than expected, and subsets of mirror neurons exist, which can help dampen our mimicking response, so we can choose whether or not to mimic when we see a gesture. At the heart of shared experiences, ability to communicate, empathize, and anticipate the intentions of others are mirror neurons. Just the way that we are able to communicate with each other with tone of voice, body language, facial expressions. These are all things that happen in mirror neurons, because what happens is you see a smile, you imagine yourself smiling, then you feel happy, which would then produce a smile unless you choose not to. The mirror neuron is so named because it behaves the same, whether you're making a gesture or an action, or if you're seeing someone else make the gesture or action. The action of a mirror neuron is responsible for our need to yawn when we see someone else yawn. And someone's going to yawn. Koa just yawn, even the suggestion of it. And what else is interesting is that it can happen trans-species, like if your pet dog yawns and then you have to yawn, and it doesn't even have to be close to you. I saw my neighbor yawn 3 houses away the other day. He's yawning again. And then I had to too, and I don't even know her. But it goes a lot deeper than that too. Mark Wheeler at UCLA Newsroom says, neuroscientists believe this mirroring is the mechanism by which we read the minds of others and empathize with them. It's how we feel someone's pain, how we discern a grimace from a grin, a smirk from a smile. So it helps us interpret so much meaning from each other. Our ability to relate to each other is a natural part of life that we're all used to and take for granted. From the time we're born, our mothers are reading our cues to know how to care for us, and we're imitating the expressions we see on our caregivers' faces. As we grow, that mimicking becomes the root of our language skills. In our personal relationships, we empathize with others and treat them with care appropriate to the depth of our relationships. And how we know what is the appropriate behavior and what is not is also related to mirror neurons. We have different kinds of reading each other in close relationships, and we know how to behave in a small, intimate group. And we also know how to behave in larger groups that are less personal, like groups of our friends. What would life be like if you couldn't understand what's going on with somebody else? It would be crazy confusing. For one thing, the basis of etiquette is using your intellect and instinct to anticipate the needs of others and address your own in an appropriate way, which you couldn't do if you couldn't read their expressions. Wouldn't be able to function as a group.
All right.
Okay. So we wouldn't be able to have manners. We wouldn't really be able to be rude. We wouldn't be able to have etiquette of any kind or anticipate anybody's actions or reactions. We couldn't function as a group because without language or even understanding of somebody's body language, wouldn't be able to cooperate at all. We would probably have never developed a language without mirror neurons and the ability to imitate. And we probably wouldn't even be able to care for our own offspring without them, because you wouldn't know when your infant's upset or hungry if none of his gestures or his cries make sense to you. So what is medical science going to do with this information? Although research is still in the early stages, researchers believe that there may be a relationship between mirror neuron functions and social disorders, such as inability to socialize normally, like in autism and Asperger's syndrome. Also, communication development or problems with communication function, such as aphasia or dysphagia. And the science of empathy, which is how we behave with or without concern for others. In the news, while it is generally accepted that ASD does not involve a general dysfunction of mirror neuron system, where and how the mirror neuron deregulation contributes to ASD symptoms remains widely debated, which means that they feel that there is no general dysfunction with the mirror neurons in people with these social learning problems, but there is a problem between the relay of information between different types of neurons, and mirror neurons are a part of that chain.
Please, zombie. Why are you?
Okay, so if mirror neurons are formed routinely by learning, that may explain the fact that since their initial discovery, researchers have spotted a wide variety of mirror neurons in different parts of the brain. Summary: if mirror neurons are brain cells that respond similarly whether an individual witnesses an action or participates in an action. Mirror neurons have subsets that allow us to control our urge to mimic others. It appears that an individual may increase the number of mirror neurons they possess through experience and education. Although mirror neurons have been suspected to play a role in ASD, there is no proof so far.